The continent descends into chaos as a princess prepares for a political marriage. Her wedding gown symbolizes a fragile peace between two powerful nations. Princess Arsinoe smiles, clutching white roses on her wedding day. Hope flickers in her bright orange eyes during the ceremony. A hand reaches out to guide her toward the altar. The crown prince greets her with a warm, affectionate smile. Blushing, she takes his hand and trusts in their future. The royal couple shares a romantic kiss before the assembly. She laughs joyfully, unaware of the tragedy to come. Time shifts as heavy footsteps echo across a cold stone floor. The crown prince enters the darkness, his expression cold and calculating. Battered and chained, Arsinoe glares at the man who betrayed her. He mocks her coldness while she dismisses his cruel banter. Kneeling before his prisoner, he prepares to reveal a bitter truth. Horrified, she learns her homeland has fallen into his hands. He reveals her own intelligence led him to the royal quarters. He smugly recounts the trouble her general caused before his defeat. He casually mentions that her mother has already been killed. A wave of despair crashes over her at the news. He scoffs at her rare display of tears amidst her failure. Standing despite her wounds, she senses her execution is near. Her strength fades and she collapses onto the dungeon floor. She bows her head, preparing to ask for one final mercy. She begs to die by the sacred sword of her homeland. He grants her request, tossing a silver dagger like trash. Turning away, he leaves her to end her own life. He offers a final, mocking farewell to the fallen princess. As he exits, she curses the wretched traitor under her breath. Broken and bloodied, she hangs her head in absolute defeat. She stares into the blade, mourning her many ruinous choices. She alone knows the true mystical power of the silver dagger. Dying by this blade allows her to return to age 12. She grips the handle, ready to reset her tragic destiny. Memories flash of her first failed attempt to stop him. She recalls her second life, ending in a failed escape. Her third attempt as a spy led only to more heartbreak. She was a puppet, lured by words and discarded effortlessly. Resolute, she vows that this fourth life will be different. Seeking the peace of death, she stabs herself with conviction. Her eyes widen as her consciousness fades from the dungeon. Gasping for air, she jolts awake in a sun-drenched room. She sits up in bed, bewildered by her sudden return. A warm breeze flows through the open balcony window. She checks her reflection, confirming she has successfully regressed. Stepping onto the rug, she finds her feet are whole. She pauses, steeling her resolve for the task ahead. Sprinting down the hallway, she runs toward her former life. She bursts through the parlor doors, panting with frantic urgency. A voice calls out her name, greeting her with warmth. A lady in a blue gown stands before her, alive. Princess Arsinoe's expression shifts to deep sorrow. Tears fall as a hand comforts her. Her mother pulls her into a hug. Her mother smiles with warmth and love. Silk ruffles and gold embroidery catch light. Darkness falls as her life begins crumbling. A plague ruthlessly decimates the royal lineage. Young Arsinoe bows her head in grief. Her mother gently offers words of hope. She vows to become a kingdom's soldier. She is caught fleeing the empire's borders. The traitorous prince mocks her failed escape. He ponders a cruel and eternal punishment. A sharp pin pierces her with malice. Agonizing screams shatter the silent forest night. Sunlight filters through the dense, leafy canopy. A single tear falls from her eye. Chained and bleeding, she endures several days. Starvation slowly drives the captive princess insane. Approaching footsteps crunch softly on the dirt. The prince greets his prisoner with arrogance. Desperate, she begs for a morsel's mercy.
He gestures toward a bundle he brought.
He reveals a horrific, bloody gift. She stares in paralyzed, wide-eyed horror. Blood spatters as a sudden scream erupts. She screams as a stake strikes home. Weakly, she cries out for her mother. He smiles warmly at her absolute torment.
He demands she eat the gruesome offering.
A hollow silence follows his cruel command. She is forced to endure soul-crushing despair. He scoffs at her refusal of food. Guards approach to gouge out her eyes. Her eyes burn with a cold, new resolve. A morning bell rings out across campus. She prepares for her rigorous military training. Arsinoe stands ready in her trainee uniform. Past deaths fuel her mission for vengeance. She focuses on her path to power. She vows to slay her cursed fate. She seeks the world's most powerful sword. Her target is the formidable General Walter. She intends to become the general's master. An instructor's voice echoes across the field. Recruits struggle through the grueling training run. A recruit is mocked for his sluggishness. Instructor Jen berates the slow-moving larvae. A recruit complains about the lichen's speed. Her intense gaze unnerves her fellow recruit. The instructor threatens to punish the slow-moving recruits. Arsinoe rests among the exhausted trainees during a break. Lying in the dirt, the red-haired cadet complains about the wolf-like instructor. The blue-haired boy warns of the lichen's exceptional hearing. Arsinoe shares a quiet moment of internal amusement. The red-haired cadet expresses disbelief regarding the general's subordinates. Geronimo makes a reckless bet as a menacing shadow looms. A sudden, heavy thud sounds as the lichen appears. The instructor explains the grim necessity of their suppressive drugs. Geronimo frantically apologizes to the enraged wolf-eared officer. News of the Grand General's lecture catches Arsinoe's attention. Her grip tightens with a sudden squeeze of nervous anticipation. The hall is filled with a low buzz as cadets gather. Arsinoe seeks solitude, ignoring the chatter of her classmates. Arsinoe's orange eyes burn with cold determination and focus. Silence descends upon the hall as the lecture begins. Arsinoe waits in tense silence for the legend's arrival. Dark memories of luring enemies haunt Arsinoe's internal thoughts. Cruel demands for capture echo through her dark memories. She reflects on the strategic importance of the man she seeks. A heavy boot marks the long-awaited arrival of the hero. Arsinoe stares up in disbelief at the hero's arrival. Titles of glory precede the entry of the Parnass hero. General Walter enters, radiating an aura of calm authority. Walter's legendary lineage as a Heiberg warrior is revealed. Walter's rapid rise through the military ranks is legendary. At 22, Walter decisively crushed the Lichen Rebellion. Walter's unparalleled military brilliance defined his rapid rise. The legendary magic sword, Dawn, glows with divine power. The fabled blade hangs quietly at Walter's side. Arsinoe finds the legendary sword surprisingly unassuming in person. Walter's refined appearance defies Arsinoe's rugged expectations. Cadets whisper about the general's surprisingly scholarly appearance. Walter's striking looks draw comparisons to a handsome scholar. Walter opens the floor for questions from the cadets. Cadets eagerly ask about rumors of the general's sword. Arsinoe remains silent, calculating her next move carefully. Arsinoe wonders if she can truly win Walter over. She strategizes a way to make a lasting impression. A student questions Walter's choice of a lichen adjutant. Arsinoe scoffs at her classmate's remarkably ignorant question. Frustration mounts as Arsinoe hears the reckless inquiry. Talkishan's villainy is revealed, debunking the false hero myth. Arsinoe challenges the relevance of race in criminal punishment. A sudden, heavy thump echoes as silence fills the hall. To her horror, Arsinoe realizes she spoke her thoughts aloud. Walter questions how a cadet knows such sensitive information. Walter confirms her knowledge while Arsinoe hides her face. The general dismisses the student's flawed premise with authority. Walter asserts that a soldier's identity transcends all others.
A flag defines the kingdom's absolute law.
Walter asserts a soldier's duty to Parnassus. Arsinoe stands to address the legendary general. Walter requests a private word with Arsinoe. The general's calm gaze meets the princess. They walk together outside the academy halls. Sunlight bathes their quiet, professional outdoor walk. Walter stops to speak with professional courtesy. Arsinoe is startled by his sudden recognition. Walter reveals he expected her academy enrollment. He mentions her mother's deep personal concern. Arsinoe acknowledges his connection to her mother. Walter maintains a composed and analytical expression. Walter warns that she cannot endure combat.
Arsinoe questions him about the royal family.
She identifies herself as the lone royal. She recalls her mother's gilded, confined life. Walter reacts with somber and respectful silence. She reveals her desire to escape confinement.
Walter reminds her of her royal status.
He questions the sincerity of her commitment. Walter vows loyalty to the royal family. A look of hope illuminates Arsinoe's face. Arsinoe expresses her desire to claim him. Walter is puzzled by her sudden proposal. She calls him admirable amidst blooming flowers. A flustered Walter seeks clarification on her words. Arsinoe asks him to remember her request. Walter promises to keep her in mind. She reflects on her childhood self's isolation. Walter bows, anticipating their post-graduation meeting. He turns and walks away into sunlight. Arsinoe watches him with an intense gaze. She gazes out the window at her future. A quiet resolve settles over the princess. Geronimo enters to pack for his departure. Geronimo laments his unexpected change in fate. He reflects on his duty as heir. Geronimo questions why she returns to court. Arsinoe admits she has business at palace. She plans to rescue her mother soon. Geronimo is shocked by her dangerous plan. They share a laugh about reckless natures. Geronimo offers a hand of future cooperation. Arsinoe accepts his support with a smile.
Duke Gadal Kale leads a noble gathering.
Tragedy strikes as the royal lineage perishes. The remaining nobles gather to debate power. A new figure emerges amidst the chaos. The empty throne sparks a tense debate. Nobles discuss the collapse of the royal lineage. An older noble listens with a stern expression. General Walter remains a stoic presence amidst the debate. Narrator introduces Princess Arsinoe's humble maternal origins. The monocle-wearing noble scoffs at her unfamiliar name. Doubts regarding Arsinoe's fitness for rule ripple through the hall. The older noble dismisses the princess as an unprepared talent. Walter challenges the council's ultimate goal for a candidate. He invokes the core values of the military creed. A flashback reveals trainees swearing eternal royal loyalty. The creed emphasizes the absolute protection of the crown. Walter turns to depart, his point firmly made. He walks through the grand, sunlit palace corridor. Marchioness Vanessa Rutherford intercepts him with a curious question. Walter notes the absolute chaos remaining in the hall. He decisively rejects Duke Kale's claim to the throne. Vanessa reacts with intrigued surprise to his bold statement.
Walter maintains his composed and resolute demeanor.
Vanessa laughs, questioning the motive behind his firm opposition. Walter poses a moral dilemma regarding leadership and resources. He presents the plight of the kingdom's many refugees. Walter explains a true king's duty to provide prosperity. He defines royalty by the act of universal protection. Vanessa questions if Arsinoe can truly fulfill such ideals. She warns of the Duke's growing military strength.
A heavy silence follows her ominous political warning.
Vanessa departs, her green dress rustling on the carpet. She whispers a wish for a peaceful resolution. Walter reflects on his reckless recommendation of the princess. He recalls their fateful encounter in snowy Pomnos. The young, cloaked princess had been caught once again. She desperately fled through the freezing mountain winds. The scene shifts abruptly to a dim prison corridor. Arsinoe wakes, lamenting her repeated, unfortunate incarceration. She wonders if her secret message reached her mother. A baguette clatters onto the floor as food arrives. The mustached guard questions the reason for her arrest. Arsinoe defends her actions as aiding those in need. She rejects the guard's assumption of a profit motive. The guard expresses his deep-seated hatred for the lichens. Arsinoe empathizes with those seeking safety from torment. Narrator explains the lethal enmity between the Rafi and lichens. A lone boat drifts silently in the dark harbor. The refugees' struggle deeply resonates with Arsinoe's own past. A sharp ting sounds as the guard strikes bars. He warns that her humanitarian efforts are strictly illegal. Arsinoe reflects on how she became an accidental benefactor. Heavy, rhythmic footsteps approach her cell as a clock sounds. Walter arrives to greet the stunned princess with respect. The scene shifts to the snowy village nursery nearby. Arsinoe wonders if he arrived just for her. Walter confirms his relief while she reflects quietly. They discuss his heavy weight as her guarantor. Arsinoe recalls her desperate plea for help. Close-ups emphasize their deep and unspoken tension. Arsinoe explains her accidental aid to the lichens. She feels disgraced by her redundant explanations. Walter warns of gathering war clouds between nations. Arsinoe claims her status as a Parnas citizen. A sweat drop appears as silence falls between them. Walter reveals news of the king's recent death. A teacup clatters as the timeline suddenly accelerates. A heavy thud sounds as Walter kneels respectfully. Walter formally proposes her as the next sovereign. Shirtless Walter stretches in the bright morning light. He reflects on the royal family's sudden demise. Walter notes how the illness ruined his plans. Chained wings symbolize the kingdom's weakened stick. Walter watches Arsinoe, questioning his next calculated move. A sharp whoosh sounds as Walter stretches outdoors. Arsinoe brings tea to the shirtless, active general. A metallic shing rings as he cleans Dawn. She notes his indifference to formal noble phrasing. Arsinoe requests he dress for their important discussion. The snowy village stands quiet under clear skies. Arsinoe observes his surprisingly unsoldier-like personal manner. She worries about his precious blade in snow. A quick snap sounds as he calls Dawn. A metallic ting echoes as Dawn returns autonomously. Arsinoe marvels at the sword's supernatural return. A heavy thump sounds as he catches wood. She praises his broken, overwhelming, and legendary prowess. Walter remains humble despite her high, sincere praise. Arsinoe questions his real reason for choosing her. She demands the truth behind his unexpected selection. Walter looks at her with a calm intensity. Arsinoe is baffled and questions his preference for criminals. He acknowledges her humanitarian work in the city. Walter defines a true king's protective, universal duty. His noble ideals leave the princess completely stunned. Walter pledges his entire life to her service. Arsinoe decides to trust his sudden, firm loyalty. A carriage wheel creaks as they finally depart. A soft step sounds as she boards confidently. He vows his utmost protection for the princess. She intends to make him her revenge's sword. The scene shifts to the grand palace halls. A pink-haired noblewoman notes the arrival of autumn. Duke Bon Witten warns against another quiet escape. He highlights the kingdom's mounting and urgent pressure. Duke Godel Kale maintains a smug and entitled expression. He senses the room's shifting intentions while Marchioness Vanessa Rutherford watches carefully. A sharp tisk sounds as the Duke begins the meeting.
Volter opens the door, inviting the newcomer inside with respect.
Rhythmic clacks echo as red heels step onto the palace carpet. Princess Arsinoe enters the hall with radiant and undeniable grace. Confused whispers ripple through the assembly as the Duke watches her. He questions her mother's health with a condescending and mocking tone. Arsinoe realizes he is attacking her mother's social standing as a power move. Cruel murmurs about her status as a concubine's daughter fill the air.
Narrator describes Duke Kale as a man whose wealth rivals royalty.
He is established as a noble who even the late king respected.
Arsinoe apologizes for her intrusion, but insists on being heard today.
She asks for permission to address the council with total bluntness. The princess highlights the dangerous paralysis of the current royal administration. She criticizes the lord's indecisiveness, sparking immediate outrage from the nobles. A quiet resolve settles over the princess as she addresses them. She stands tall, commanding the absolute attention of every noble present.
Duke Kale dares her to name a suitable candidate for the throne.
Arsinoe prepares to name the person she deems most befitting. A stunned gasp sounds as she makes her shocking choice. She maintains her gaze, refusing to back down from the challenge. Duke Kale is left speechless by her bold and unexpected assertion.
Volter breaks into a sweat at her reckless and daring confidence.
Arsinoe's eyes burn with a fierce and regal intensity. She bows with a mixture of grace and silent defiance. Duke Kale demands she immediately retract her outrageous and wild remarks. Arsinoe brings up suspicious and recent activities in the Duke's territory. Vanessa points out the strange military provocation coming from the Dopine. A quick rustle sounds as she questions their true motives.
Arsinoe asks if the Empire is secretly orchestrating the current war.
The brown-haired noble slams the table in a furious and desperate denial. Volter presents clear evidence of the princess's humanitarian work for refugees. Vanessa seeks confirmation as the hall grows increasingly tense and divided.
Narrator explains the Duke's deep financial ties to the neighboring empire.
Arsinoe warns that the Duke would only rule as a puppet king. He dismisses her claims while she highlights the empire's current inaction. The princess vows to protect the throne herself from foreign influence. Duke Kale scoffs at her stated desire to become the king. Arsinoe reveals she possesses the secret cure for the lethal plague. Vanessa stands in shock at the princess's miraculous and timely claim. Arsinoe challenges the Duke to support her claim for the crown. She mentally goads him to act on his growing noble anger. A dark shadow of fury falls over the Duke's face. A heavy thud sounds as he strikes the table in rage. He accuses her of lying to seize the throne from them. Arsinoe declares she will only share the cure with her supporters.
The noblewoman in pink reacts with shock to her open threat.
Volter stands resolutely behind the princess as she claims her authority. Volter honors the legacy of the late King Visimonteus II. A sharp metallic shing sounds as Volter draws his blade. Volter kneels respectfully, offering his sword to the new sovereign. Volter gazes downward with a somber and focused expression. A rhythmic clack sounds as red heels step across the carpet. Arsinoe stands before Duke Kale, asserting her presence in the hall. Duke Kale realizes he is losing the argument to the princess. Arsinoe commands those opposing her legion to leave the palace. Volter and Arsinoe walk together under the palace's golden chandeliers. A soft rustle sounds as the pair departs the council chamber.
Volter finds the princess's true thoughts impossible to decipher. He remains deeply intrigued by her unexpected and bold leadership style. Walter is remembered as the faithful dog of the royal family. Arsinoe stands in her private quarters, adjusting her long hair. A wolf-eared man bursts into the room, shouting for the general. Arsinoe looks back with a confused and surprised expression. The princess reflects quietly while standing alone in her chambers. The wolf-eared man enters again, calling out for his superior. Arsinoe emerges from her bath with flushed cheeks and wet hair. She recognizes the newcomer and asks if he remembers her. The wolf-eared man excitedly identifies her as the academy student Arsinoe. Arsinoe mentions her business while waiting for the general's return. They discuss recent events while standing beside an ornate white dusk. The princess notes the strange influence of the current full moon. The adjutant notices a peculiar scent coming from her silk pouch. Arsinoe displays sparkling stones she believes might contain gold dust. The wolf-eared man reacts with shock as he examines the item. She reveals that the object is supposedly a dragon's tailbone. He exclaims that such bones are a legendary lichen delicacy. Arsinoe dismisses the item as a fake from the market. She playfully tosses the bone high into the air. A quick tap sounds as someone knocks on the large doors. A light whoosh sounds as Walter enters the room for dinner. The wolf-eared man leaps up and catches the bone mid-air. Walter watches the animalistic display with a deadpan and silent stare. Walter tells his tired adjutant to go rest in his quarters. A quick stop sounds as the princess calls out to him. The wolfman suggests giving the special stone to the general. Walter apologizes for his subordinate's moon-induced and erratic behavior. Arsinoe asks him to stop using formal royal titles privately. Walter stops in his tracks, taken aback by her request. He firmly refuses, stating he cannot commit such blatant insubordination. Arsinoe reflects on her many past lives and tragic deaths. Her orange eye glows with a fierce and ancient determination. She realizes that status and titles are merely fleeting illusions. The princess stands gracefully in her light blue evening gown. Arsinoe expresses her simple desire to relax when off-duty. Walter remains stiff and formal despite her friendly and relaxed tone. He looks away, visibly sweating under her playful and direct gaze. Arsinoe gives a thumbs up and leads him toward dinner. The grand palace towers glow under the golden light of sunset. Internal discussions confirm the palace will remain under a strict lockdown. Arsinoe teasingly notes that the general is being inconvenienced by her presence. The princess gazes out the window with a somber and pensive expression. Arsinoe cryptically predicts that many noble seats will be empty tomorrow. Walter listens to her dark foresight with a stoic and steady gaze. They discuss the difficulty of manipulating a seasoned politician like Duke Yahello. Arsinoe recognizes that the Duke is the only one unifying the lords. She questions if they would truly lose a fight against his knights. Walter remains silent, his expression unreadable as he considers the possibility. A bright and sudden smile returns to her face before dinner. The pair walks together down a hallway toward a high-stakes meeting. An official announcement heralds Lady Arsinoe's arrival at the formal banquet. Arsinoe notes that Duke Yahello still refuses to acknowledge her royalty. The princess settles into her regal chair with an air of authority. Vanessa and Duke Witten observe the arrival with a mixture of suspicion. Walter steps forward and opens the massive double doors for the assembly. A disciplined line of armored knights marches into the dining hall. Arsinoe cryptically announces that she has prepared a gift for every guest. She emphasizes that the number of gifts matches the guests perfectly. Servants begin placing mysterious silver trays in front of each noble lord. Marchioness Vanessa looks down at the tray with a shocked and pale expression.
Duke Witten questions the safety of the plant presented on the tray. A sharp and terrifying realization flashes across Vanessa's wide-open eye. The Marchioness desperately asks if this medicine can truly save her daughter. Arsinoe displays a small, ornate glass vial containing the supposed cure. Duke Witten stares at the mysterious liquid in a state of disbelief. A wave of panicked murmurs and gasps ripples through the seated nobles. A dark and lingering memory of the royal family begins to surface. Arsinoe reflects on the fake elixir that caused her father's agonizing death. Vanessa suspects the first queen was the source of these lethal rumors. Deep regret and fear permeate the atmosphere as the nobles realize their mistake. The pink-haired noblewoman decides to retreat and reassess her dangerous position. A shadow of intense, bitter resentment falls over a hidden observer's face. Rhythmic shouts of 1, 2 echo through a heavy and cold downpour. Arsinoe watches the soldiers training in the rain from her palace window. Walter explains that constant training is mandatory for any unforeseen military crisis. The princess recalls her own grueling and miserable days of rain training. A phantom wince crosses her face as she remembers the physical toll. Arsinoe expresses a sudden and chilling fear of being betrayed from behind. Walter issues a firm military order while she plots her next move. She stands resolutely in her functional training gear, ready for the struggle. The narrative describes the sickly and unnatural pallor spreading among the nobility. A flashback reveals the first queen being pampered by her many maids. The queen cruelly mocks young Arsinoe's status while preparing her beauty routine. Young Arsinoe realizes the queen was knowingly applying poison to her skin. Back in the present, the princess and general discuss the lethal medicine. Arsinoe explains how steam exposure activates the poison's most deadly symptoms. She coldly admits to spreading the steaming method to accelerate their deaths. Arsinoe prepares to deliver more shocking news to the stoic General Walter. Arsinoe recounts the rumors of a prince's tragic murder-suicide. Walter admits he feels no grief over his enemy's end. Walter apologizes for his bluntness, while Arsinoe shifts focus toward managing the lords. A heavy silence settles as they prepare for the political storm ahead. Arsinoe harbors deep resentment toward those who tormented her and her mother. She resolves to end the cycle of her tragic past lives once and for all. The princess teasingly points out the general's slip into formal royal address. Walter looks visibly flustered and breaks into a nervous sweat. Arsinoe issues a soft but firm command for him to approach her. A subtle whoosh sounds as Walter obediently steps closer with his head bowed. He hesitantly reaches out his hand as the tension between them heightens. The wolf-eared adjutant excitedly urges the princess to show the general her stone. Arsinoe watches the interaction with a sharp and curious gaze. She observes Walter's reaction as he considers the unexpected gift. A radiant aura surrounds Walter as Arsinoe notes his surprising delight. She flashes a playful V sign while Walter remains mesmerized by the stone. Walter reveals his secret hobby of rock collecting while admiring the gift's pattern. Arsinoe beams with genuine happiness at his unexpected and heartfelt reaction. Walter smiles warmly and vows to treasure her gift forever. The princess stands frozen in a sudden, breathless state of shock. Walter prepares for reorganization as they discuss the busy days ahead. Arsinoe remains lost in thought while the general manages palace affairs. A sudden, frantic thud sounds as the wolf-eared man bursts in with a crisis. A heavy breath sounds as the adjutant reports a major problem to Walter. A sharp slap sounds as he slams a mysterious letter onto the table. A soft rustle sounds as Walter carefully reads the urgent and troubling message. A sudden, sharp thud sounds as the adjutant reacts to Walter's eerie calmness. Arsinoe enters the study with a stock of books and greets the instructor. Walter confirms the situation while the adjutant remains in a state of panic.
The wolf-eared man shouts that Duke Kale is creating an independent nation.
Arsinoe questions the logic behind the Duke's sudden and bold political move.
Walter agrees with her assessment as the adjutant watches them with bewilderment. They discuss how quickly the Duke's proclamations were delivered to the other lords. Arsinoe reflects on her prior knowledge of the Duke's clandestine military preparations. A rhythmic tap sounds as Walter contemplates the Duke's independence strategy. The narrative questions why the Duke chooses independence over a direct revolt. Duke Kale's silhouette looms as his ruthless political philosophy is revealed. The strategy of sacrificing a small piece to secure a lethal victory is explained. Arsinoe sets a deadline of 1 month to resolve the growing conflict. She prioritizes sending the royal proclamation over the formalities of a coronation. A confident smile returns to her face as she asserts her leadership. A rhythmic clack sounds as Jen finds the royal address increasingly awkward. Jen looks back while struggling with the transition to her new status. A steady thud sounds as Jen admires the princess's wisdom and fearlessness. A faint smirk plays across Walter's face as they walk the hallway. Jen reacts with disbelief at the general's rare and subtle show of emotion. A soft whoosh sounds as the wind blows through a golden vineyard. A hand reaches down and gathers a handful of rich, dark earth. Duke Kale kneels alone in the vineyard, inspecting the season's progress. A satisfied hum sounds as the Duke predicts a bountiful harvest of wine. Duke Kale emphasizes the vital importance of patience. He wonders who would dare challenge his land. Atland delivers an urgent document from the royal palace. He reports that the princess seeks an immediate coronation. Atland questions why their original capture plan failed. A soft, short "ha" sounds as Kale chuckles. Massive palace doors begin to open very slowly. Arsinoe stands before her throne with cold resolve. A steady thud sounds as the general approaches. The grand hallway glows under radiant blue light. The princess gazes toward the glowing royal seat. A quick, rhythmic tap sounds as servants clean. Arsinoe approves of the chamber's grand appearance. She recalls her father's cruelty and past orders. Arsinoe reflects on surviving while her father perished. The princess declines the offer to go further. Her orange eye glows with a fierce intensity. Arsinoe stands alone in the vast empty hall. Panels of the night sky signal passing time. Moonlight bathes the palace towers in cold light. Arsinoe calls for the general as they enter. A sudden, sharp thud sounds as he presents information. A winged, white-haired man appears with elegant poise. Walter introduces Captain Weiss as her new escort. A quick, polite nod sounds as Weiss greets. Walter commands Weiss to show proper royal respect. Arsinoe acknowledges the secret existence of the Laffy. Weiss asks if she has met his kind. A cold, snowy mountain landscape fills the view. Arsinoe describes the southern region of Pomnos fondly. Weiss looks flustered and confused by her knowledge. The narrative explains the Laffy's attachment to home. Arsinoe laughs while Weiss questions her surprising seriousness. Weiss recalls selling smoked trout and malt mushrooms. A sudden, firm grab sounds as she startles him. Arsinoe laughs heartily while Walter watches with bewilderment. Weiss is awestruck by her noble and graceful air. Weiss looks on with a soft, mesmerized gaze. Weiss recalls a honey-haired person from 2 years ago. A quick, light tap sounds as he reacts. Weiss admits he only possesses brute physical strength. A sudden, heavy thud sounds as she resolve. A quick, respectful bow sounds as Weiss pledges.
Whis reveals he is the chieftain's eldest son. The palace exterior remains silent under the stars.
The trio discusses the Duke's suspiciously small army.
Arsinoe suspects a hidden strategy behind his move.
Walter reports their failed search for hidden units. She questions what the Duke's greatest weapon is. Walter considers if Portmeyer Harbor is the key. Walter questions the ships as Weiss looks on in shock. Portmeyer Harbor stands quiet under a starry night sky. Arsinoe sits dejectedly on a bench, lost in her thoughts.
Moonlight illuminates General Walter as he stands alone outside.
A gentle hand rests on the princess's back as a comfort.
Walter looks ahead with a stoic and unwavering expression.
Arsinoe remarks on his talent for finding her.
They discuss a secret path through the palace gardens.
The princess reflects on why the path was abandoned.
She insists on fulfilling her duties despite his concerns. Their gazes meet amidst a backdrop of delicate lilies. Walter looks at her with a soft, lingering gaze. Arsinoe smiles warmly, her eyes glowing with determination. The royal palace stands majestic against the sunset sky. Walter dons a hooded cloak for their upcoming mission. He warns that the plan is far too risky. Jen and Weiss arrive to begin the secret operation.
Jen offers a deep and respectful bow to her.
A sudden, loud bang sounds as the adjutant bursts in.
Weiss mocks the wolf-eared man's lack of subtlety.
The adjutant seethes with rage at the bird-winged man. A sudden, sharp spark sounds as their tempers flare. Walter firmly commands them to watch their language. Arsinoe laughs and decides to ignore the consequences. Walter prepares to depart while she watches him. Jen prepares a heavy chain for the aerial transport. Walter officially promotes Jen to a new leadership role. Weiss issues a secret order to protect the princess. Arsinoe looks up at the hooded general curiously. She tasks Walter with securing a crucial victory.
Walter expresses deep concern for her personal safety.
He urgently asks her for the full truth. Jen takes flight while pulling Walter along. The hooded general looks back at the setting sun. Arsinoe watches the horizon with a steady gaze. A rhythmic clink sounds as Jen pulls the chain. The princess prepares to begin the dangerous hunt. An aerial view reveals the sprawling Portmeyer Harbor. Jen warns that their current position is dangerous.
Walter orders an immediate descent onto the ramparts.
A sudden, heavy whoosh sounds as he dives. A quick, metallic clink sounds as he swings. Walter lands silently atop the high castle walls. A sharp thud sounds as he strikes a guard. The remaining guard shouts in shock at the intruder. A sudden, sharp crack sounds as he kicks. Walter stares coldly, focused on finishing his task.
The scene shifts to the palace's quiet interior.
Weiss finds the hidden princess in her finery.
Arsinoe laughs off his concerns about her plan.
Arsinoe remains calm despite the late hour.
A blue gem pendant swings rhythmically.
Weiss and Arsinoe exchange a silent look. Arsinoe admits her fascination with the stone.
Weiss explains the stone's temperature regulation property.
Weiss laments the rarity of recruitment for his kind.
Arsinoe's curiosity remains sharp and focused.
Weiss describes the Lapis' inherent love for freedom. Weiss ponders the ease of life in Pomnos. Arsinoe suddenly grabs Weiss, demanding the truth. A sudden, heavy thud sounds as Jen interrupts. Arsinoe confirms their palace trap is ready. Arsinoe's gaze burns with strategic superiority.
Arsinoe sends Jen to incite chaos.
A sudden, rhythmic thud sounds as Jen taunts. Lycan soldiers mobilize across the royal grounds. Jen promises a feast for every fallen enemy. The port stands silent under a cold sky. Duke Kale's subordinate struggles with sudden dizziness. The Duke's subordinate believes the plan is succeeding. Duke Kale faces his ranks of soldiers.
An escort prepares to lead Kale forward.
Duke Kale values meticulous preparation above all.
Kale dismisses Arsinoe's defense strategy as futile.
He scoffs at her perceived lack of skill.
Kale orders the deployment of Dream Incense.
His subordinate questions the move's risks. A thick fog of Dream Incense descends. Lycans retreat frantically from the incoming smoke. Jen rallies his men to fall back.
A soldier questions their unusual battle prowess.
Jen playfully mocks the enemy's subpar performance. The Lycans execute a well-timed retreat.
Jen seethes at the incense's numbing effects.
A sharp smack sounds as Jen strikes.
Invaders burst into the palace halls. Arsinoe praises Jen's success as he arrives.
A subordinate threatens to punish the invaders. A sudden, fast whoosh sounds as one strikes. A heavy thud sounds as Whis intervenes.
Arsinoe finds their bickering strangely endearing. Soldiers excitedly claim to have found her.
Arsinoe sits regally as they approach.
Greedy invaders rush toward the throne room. A soldier stops short in sheer terror.
Whis blocks the path with massive wings.
White feathers scatter as his wings flare.
Arsinoe mocks them while swinging on chains.
Panic erupts as the soldiers lose her. Arsinoe offers her enemies one final surrender.
Whis flies Arsinoe toward the royal palace.
They land silently at the rampart's edge.
Guards offer a deep, respectful royal bow.
Arsinoe walks past her loyal standing forces.
She crosses her arms with regal composure.
Arsinoe commands her men to seal the palace.
The palace courtyard remains still and quiet. A soldier on the wall signals readiness.
The defense team takes positions along the wall.
Archers draw their heavy bows in unison.
Arsinoe grips a bow with a flaming arrow.
Her orange eye glows with deadly determination. The flaming arrow strikes the lock mechanism. Enemy soldiers realize they are being ambushed. A hail of arrows strikes the invaders.
Arsinoe aims to break the enemy's morale.
Whis leads the winged squad through the sky. Large sacks are dropped from the air. Arsinoe orders her archers to open fire. Burning arrows rain down upon the palace. Massive flames erupt, trapping the enemy forces. Whis lands and checks on the princess. Arsinoe promises a reward of medicinal baths. She gazes calmly out over the destruction.
Kale demands the palace gate be opened.
Kale's fury clashes with Arsinoe's cold resolve.
A quiet vineyard stands under a crimson sky.
Two men discuss royal documents in private.
Kale recalls his plan to strike the palace.
He reflects on the princess's sudden coronation.
Kale promises his son he will be king.
Atland questions replacing his older brother, Ajin. A city on a hill represents a former life. A man looks down with heavy regret.
Atland is remembered as a shunned child.
Kale receives news of his scattered troops. He is shocked by his massive losses. Kale realizes the Lycans lured him into a trap. A soldier reports a massive force approaching. The dense forest rustles with hidden movement. Kale orders his men into a battle formation. A gray-haired archer prepares to fire.
Royal soldiers descend from ropes to attack.
Kale frantically orders a desperate counterattack. A soldier watches the slaughter in horror. Kale's men fall while he grins sinisterly.
A messenger arrives to deliver a final warning.
A letter from the princess demands Kale's surrender. Kale rips the letter in a blind rage. He stands confused as his plans crumble. Kale recognizes his son being held hostage. Kale screams in fury for his son's release. Atland's silent terror intensifies as the blade grazes.
The captor demands Kale choose his son's life.
Kale's expression shifts to one of cold despair. Atland weeps, begging for his father's forgiveness.
A secluded cabin offers a temporary sanctuary.
Whis complains about the hideout's poor conditions. He expresses his deep loathing for the filth.
Arsinoe and Whis engage in playful, childish bickering. She taunts him with a tiny, crawling insect.
Whis warns her that he is losing patience. Arsinoe apologizes, claiming the bug sparked old memories.
Whis remains annoyed, asking her to stop teasing.
Arsinoe insists she is being perfectly serious.
Dramatic silhouettes highlight Kale's mental collapse.
Arsinoe's eyes burn with an inner fire.
She looks back with a regal, radiant smile.
The princess's grace remains unshaken by their surroundings.
Whis delivers news of the Duke's total surrender. Whis confirms the hard-fought victory is theirs.
A sudden, soft thud sounds as she collapses.
The imperial palace stands proud amidst shifting clouds.
A maid prepares Arsinoe for the grand banquet.
The maid marvels at the princess's breathtaking beauty. Arsinoe gazes at her reflection with quiet intensity. She wonders about the whereabouts of her cat.
A vibrant bouquet of tulips is presented.
A charming noble offers the flowers with affection. He insists on celebrating his beloved consort's birthday.
Arsinoe recalls her previous rejection of his advances. He presents a small, ornate gift box.
Arsinoe's heart races as a soft blush appears. She carefully begins to open the mysterious gift.
A sudden, piercing shriek sounds as horror strikes.
A gruesome gift lies revealed on the bed. The noble looms over her with menacing intent.
He cruelly mocks her while she cowers.
Arsinoe's face is pale with unadulterated shock. He grabs her chin, demanding the secret path. Arsinoe screams for him to release her. A bloody premonition of her downfall flashes by. Dark figures loom in a world of crimson. Darkness closes in as a hand covers her.
A sudden, firm grab sounds as she wakes.
Walter watches over her with a worried gaze.
Walter checks on her after the terrifying dream.
They have found safety at the House of Heiberg.
Walter explains they moved her to ensure security. Walter remains by her side as she recovers. Walter urges Arsinoe to rest while she insists her training sustains her.
Walter gazes at her with a look of deep, unspoken concern.
A sudden, soft touch sounds as he checks her temperature. Walter recalls her clinging to him desperately throughout the night. A heavy silence falls as he leans toward her with intensity.
A gentle, warm brush sounds as he touches her neck.
He gently shifts her weight with practiced, steady care. Walter sweeps the blonde princess up into a protective bridal carry. They move past elegant floral decor toward her resting place.
A soft, muffled thud sounds as he lays her down. He explains how he gathered support from several loyal houses.
The scene shifts to the memories of his high-ranking allies.
Walter's modesty clashes with the high praise he receives as general. He confesses his lingering anxiety regarding the duchy's stability.
Arsinoe reacts with shock to his unexpectedly bold proximity.
Walter's intense gaze remains fixed on her as she questions him.
Arsinoe coldly describes her plan to crush her remaining enemies. Her heart begins to race with a sudden, frantic rhythm.
Walter asks if her health is failing her once more. He teases that her lethal resolve is strangely attractive to him.
Arsinoe flusteredly orders him to leave before she acts.
Walter stands baffled by her sudden and passionate outburst. The heavy doors seal her private chambers in absolute silence. Arsinoe smiles to herself while reflecting on his close proximity. A dark cloud shifts as she ponders those still unsecured.
Walter walks away alone, burdened by the weight of execution.
A soft, rhythmic rustle sounds as she turns restlessly. Exhaustion finally pulls her toward a deep and dreamless slumber.
The House of Heiberg stands quiet under the bright afternoon sun.
Whis reports to Walter amidst a massive mountain of scrolls.
A scratchy, quick scrawl sounds as he signs various reports.
Whis laments the endless tide of grueling post-war paperwork.
He offers the weary Grand General a moment of respite. Walter declines tea to focus entirely on his administrative duties.
Whis reveals the traitor Kale's humiliating new role as janitor.
Walter finds the punishment almost too merciful for such treason. Whis looks down, considering the harsh reality of the demotion.
A grim warning hangs over the heads of the nobility.
A fallen noble sweeps the palace grounds in total disgrace. A dry, repetitive swish sounds as he clears the grass.
Whis admits he underestimated the weight of Walter's cold judgment.
Walter fastens his formal uniform with sharp and practiced precision.
He resolves to join Arsinoe at the Royal Assembly immediately.
A sudden, sharp click sounds as the princess walks.
Arsinoe marches through the palace in full military regalia.
The royal hall hums with the whispers of gathered nobles.
A noble offers a respectful kiss to her gloved hand. A high-ranking lady discusses the queen's return to social activities.
Allies marvel at Her Majesty's strategic extension of favor.
They debate the risks taken for her ultimate royal assurance.
The red-haired noblewoman offers a knowing smirk.
She critiques the man's increasingly narrow-minded views. Her true goal remains securing vital medicinal supplies.
She dismisses the man to prepare for departure. Her cold expression betrays her deep-seated arrogance.
The brown-haired lord seethes with intense resentment.
A sudden, sharp click sounds as doors open.
The royal assembly gathers within the grand hall.
Walter commands the restless nobles to take seats.
The noblewoman questions the military uniforms on display.
Management of the fallen Kiel Duchy is discussed.
She carefully considers the strategic importance of land.
Arsinoe oversees the council with quiet royal poise.
Count Bubel raises his hand to intervene. He suggests the palace administer the territory directly.
His rivals exchange looks of mounting, nervous concern.
Bubel warns against the dangers of Western pirates.
The council is silenced by his shrewd observations. A delicate balance of power begins to shift.
Arsinoe formally approves the joint governance strategy.
She announces an equal 50% profit split.
A territorial map highlights the valuable coastal regions. The nobles calculate the massive potential of Portmire.
She immediately moves to claim the western region.
A heavy, sudden thud sounds as he stands.
She boasts of her superior international diplomatic connections. A hidden speaker finds their greed quite amusing.
Walter firmly commands both lords to stop arguing.
Arsinoe demands they both immediately regain their composure.
She acknowledges the strategic value of Portmire Harbor. The nobles wait in tense, expectant silence.
A heavy, suffocating quiet falls over the room.
Shocked gasps follow her decision between the rivals.
Arsinoe offers a warm and triumphant royal smile. Sunlight filters through the peaceful, overhanging trees. A soft, airy laugh sounds from the princess.
She mocks the predictable greed of the nobility.
A steady, rhythmic clip-clop sounds as they ride.
Dappled light highlights the serenity of the path.
Her orange eye gleams with secret, deadly insight.
Walter expresses his lingering confusion regarding her choice.
He quickly apologizes for questioning her royal strategy.
Arsinoe reflects on her path to the throne. She notes the lingering shadow of the fallen Kiel.
Her military uniform projects an image of strength.
Walter warns that many lords still underestimate her.
A sudden, bright laugh sounds from the princess.
She admits her youth is her greatest weapon.
The nobility will let their guard down soon.
The duchy serves as her most effective bait.
Arsinoe observes the court with a sharp and calculating gaze.
Whis ponders the fate of the remaining treacherous nobles.
Arsinoe reflects on the many lives she has endured.
Walter remains a silent pillar of strength by her side.
She identifies Walter as a man of unwavering, ancient loyalty. A sudden, violent roar sounds as memories of fire ignite. A sharp, wet slice sounds as lives are cut short.
Walter fought to protect the kingdom in every previous timeline.
Cowardly nobles fled or surrendered while the world burned. Arsinoe identifies a potential spy among the high-ranking nobility.
A rhythmic, steady clip-clop sounds as they reach their destination.
Whis greets the princess at the grand, towering temple gates. The sacred blade stands central to the coming divine revelation.
They walk the long red carpet of the nameless god. A sudden, soft rustle sounds as a young priest bows.
Arsinoe and Walter stare back with looks of utter bewilderment.
The young priest guides the group toward the inner chapel.
Whis learns that the temple ascetics cast aside their identities. Walter considers the heavy weight of absolute spiritual devotion.
The boy explains the symbolic importance of their shorn hair.
Whis feels quite proud of his own soft, feathery appearance. A sudden, heavy thud sounds as he sheds a feather. Whis scurries back into line, hoping no one noticed him. Arsinoe asks for confirmation of a strange and ancient legend. The legendary sword Dawn waits for its true predestined master. The boy reveals that Walter once lifted the impossible blade. Whis finds the literal name of their god highly suspicious. The boy is offended by the questioning of his faith. An ancient mural depicts the god's eventual and glorious return. Arsinoe teases Walter about his new role as a prophet. Walter tries to redirect the group to their pressing schedule. The temple's grand architecture towers over the weary travelers. Arsinoe and the priest gush over Walter's handsome appearance.
Walter sternly reminds them to respect the chapel's sacred silence.
A rhythmic, heavy step sounds as Walter walks away embarrassed.
Arsinoe finds his visible discomfort more amusing than any injury.
Her expression shifts to one of deep and cold seriousness.
She finds Duke Keel laboring in his new, lowly position. The fallen Duke stares down with a look of exhaustion. A dry, rhythmic swish sounds as he continues his penance.
A scratchy, slow crawl sounds as he draws in dirt.
Arsinoe asks for his input on the duchy's future management. A soft, rising whoosh sounds as the wind passes them. A sudden, sharp halt sounds as he stops his work. Keel questions if she has come merely to mock him. A heavy, lonely whoosh sounds as he contemplates his fate. He seeks to be free from all worldly, heavy burdens. The former Duke embraces the temple's philosophy of absolute emptiness. A sudden, sharp clack sounds as he strikes the flint. A sudden, firm snap sounds as Arsinoe adjusts her gloves.
Duke Keel explains his past rebellion.
Arsinoe asks if he feels regret. Keel stokes a fire without regret. He reflects on his former power. Arsinoe watches him sweep the grounds.
She acknowledges his perspective with calmness.
Keel deems her a remarkable woman. He exhales a long, weary sigh. Arsinoe calls his previous strategy bold. Keel remains suspicious of her praise. She demands he return as sovereign. Arsinoe reveals her true intentions. Keel chooses his current peaceful isolation.
Arsinoe warns against further petty games.
A dry, rhythmic swish sounds as he sweeps. She mentions his son's hunger strike. Keel grips his broom in fury. He accuses her of hostage tactics. The fallen Duke screams in rage. Arsinoe critiques his narrow-minded standards. A sudden, sharp click sounds as she walks. She defends her ruthless efficiency. Arsinoe silences him with cold authority. She leaves him to his penance. Arsinoe demands he learns proper decency. Keel stands frozen in absolute shock. The sacred temple stands silent.
Activity hums at the command headquarters.
Guards transport crates of trap equipment.
Lucy prepares a delicate tea set.
She anticipates Arsinoe's delight in tea.
A sudden, heavy thud sounds nearby.
Lucy spots a mouse among cookies.
Gah! Lucy screams as tea spills. Walter observes the chaotic scene stoically.
Lucy panics as the rat escapes.
Arsinoe restlessly ponders taking a bath. A sudden, sharp click sounds as Walter enters.
Walter's sharp eyes scan the room. He finds the princess lounging amidst mess.
Arsinoe frantically offers to clean up.
Walter commands her return to palace.
She sulks while he remains persistent.
Arsinoe pouts over leaving her headquarters.
Walter insists she prepare for coronation.
He catches her pretending to clean.
Walter questions her fear of Gödel.
Arsinoe reacts with wide-eyed, panicked shock.
Walter notes her hidden, meticulous nature.
He observes her lingering, downcast mood.
Arsinoe explains why she must appease Duke Kill.
She needs the Duke to unmask a traitor.
They discuss the similarities between Walter and Gödel.
Both men are idealists dedicated to their country.
Arsinoe rests while reflecting on her political rivals.
A moment of quiet reflection for the princess.
Walter's hand reaches toward her in silent concern.
Walter questions the difference between rival high lords. Vanessa Rutherford and Bon Whitten are strategically profiled.
Walter suggests Whitten for his unwavering royal loyalty.
Walter considers the potential chair of the assembly.
Arsinoe playfully waits for Walter's final answer.
A quick swish sounds as Walter steps back.
Arsinoe comfortably rests her head on Walter's lap. She admits capturing Kill's loyalty was much easier. Walter looks at her with quiet, protective concern.
They discuss the unusual habits of Kill's son.
Walter is confused by Arsinoe's line of questioning.
Walter reveals he never desired a military career.
Arsinoe finds Walter's earnest humility incredibly irritating. Arsinoe tells Walter to be quiet for sleep. The princess falls fast asleep on Walter's lap. A soft, airy whoosh sounds as time passes. Arsinoe continues to rest peacefully on her guard. Walter remains a steady, silent support for her. Sunlight bathes the sleeping princess in soft light.
Walter checks if she is still fully asleep.
Walter watches her with soft, blushing devotion. A sudden, cold whoosh sounds across the castle. A rhythmic scratching sounds as she writes intensely.
She focuses on her upcoming strategic legislative moves.
Nobles gather to discuss the king's delayed return. Elizabeth Comte, Viscountess, observes the social gathering. A delicate clink sounds as they discuss coronation.
Jealous nobles credit the Grand Marshal for success.
Vanessa critiques Bon Whitten's greedy, preemptive military actions. Bon Whitten smirks at his own perceived cleverness.
A sudden, muffled gag sounds from the noblewoman.
Arsinoe officially announces the coronation's seasonal postponement. A quick flutter sounds as cabinet reorganization begins.
Proposals for tax rates and harvest relief reviewed.
Walter stands watch during the intensive council session. Walter realizes she stayed awake preparing for meetings. Walter watches her with deep, newfound admiration.
Arsinoe moves to conclude the Kill Duchy discussion.
She sits pensively, weighing the coastline's strategic value.
Arsinoe rejects joint governance, shocking the expectant Whitten. She announces two distinct, high-ranking royal appointments.
The assembly reacts with shock to her move. Bon Whitten protests the heirless Taibu role desperately. Arsinoe emphasizes the vital importance of the tutor's role, noting that an heir will arrive before long, as she questions the Duke's reaction.
She recalls his former desire to be the late Crown Prince's Taibu as Whitten slumps in his chair.
The princess praises his wisdom and consideration, deeming no one better suited for the position. She officially entrusts the child to him with a look of serene confidence. Duke Witten remains slumped in silence, his face obscured by heavy, dark shadows.
Lord Rutherford is appointed the governor of the duchy, leaving Vanessa Rutherford in a state of visible shock.
Witten's eyes glow with a piercing green light as malice fills his expression. Arsinoe takes her leave while demanding continued service from both Duke Witten and Lord Rutherford. Hushed whispers fill the room as the nobles react to the unexpected appointments. The grand hallway stands empty under the weight of a foreboding atmosphere. Arsinoe sports a dazed, confused expression with a question mark hovering over her head. Walter presents an incredibly extravagant tea and dessert spread, much to the princess's surprise.
Walter remains stoic and silent while sitting across from his master.
She nibbles on a snack while nervously sensing the tension in the room.
Walter warns that agitating such a devious adversary is a move fraught with peril.
Arsinoe acknowledges that Duke Witten is far more dangerous than he lets on. Walter tells her that turning the Duke into a foe was ill-advised. A sudden wave of nervous realization leaves Arsinoe sweating and wide-eyed. Walter questions if she is staging an intervention for her own inexperienced ruling.
He points out that Witten likely views his new role as a mortifying public insult.
Arsinoe realizes that Walter is actually furious despite his calm demeanor.
Walter sternly informs her that she should have consulted him beforehand.
Chibi Arsinoe panics, begging him to just yell at her instead of staring.
She explains her strategy to goad the Duke into forcing his own hand.
Walter questions the specific reason and purpose behind such a risky move. Arsinoe silently reflects on her true motivations for baiting Bon Witten. A dark memory reveals Witten as a turncoat who sold out the country. She believes a man who betrayed his nation 3 times will never change. She prepares an unavoidable trap at Fort Myers Port to catch him. The princess wonders how to communicate this complex plan without revealing her secrets. She finds it difficult to describe her knowledge to the stoic guard. Revealing her multiple lives is an impossibility she cannot ignore. Internal panic rises as she searches for a plausible excuse to give him. She claims Witten is a spy for the Empire, shocking Walter. Arsinoe insists that her accusation is based merely on intuition. She tells herself to show confidence despite the magnitude of the fabrication. She asserts that her instincts are uncannily accurate and orders strict surveillance. Walter reluctantly agrees to trust her judgment for the time being. Arsinoe celebrates her narrow escape while Walter sips his tea in silence. Walter realizes he must restructure the vanguard to prepare for potential incidents. He vows to respond with full military might, even if it leads to conflict. A carriage rattles through the busy streets as commoners look on. Witten peers from his carriage window, finding the situation a complete nuisance. His eye narrows as he spots someone unexpected in the crowd. He rages against the princess, labeling her mother as gutter trash and her as a brat. A sudden, heavy bang sounds as Witten strikes the carriage seat in a fury. He views her as a naive girl completely ignorant of the world's workings. Witten considers his age and lack of a wife while holding a jeweled chain. He plans to enslave the beautiful but low-born princess despite her lineage. Witten's hand trembles as he grips a jeweled chain, cursing the accursed wench who humiliated him. The green-eyed Duke looks down on his rivals, declaring that Parnas is a lost cause without a worthy heir. Inside his carriage, Witten decides there is no reason to remain loyal to a country that is sinking. Witten discusses a secret imperial message with his subordinate and orders an immediate rendezvous to finalize their plans. He points out the carriage window, his attention fixed on someone in the busy city street. Smirking maliciously, he orders his men to kidnap a blonde woman because she resembles the princess. A strategic overview reveals that the central command post adjoining the capital is the core of Parnas defense.
The northern border remains unguarded, protected by the snowy peaks of Mount Nomen and the lack of a command post.
A white-haired winged man named Napari descends toward a small detachment as soldiers cheer his arrival. Napari, a captain of the Lafi, overlooks the elite residence meant for his small but powerful unit. The captain lands softly in the snow, greeted by a subordinate who has been waiting for his return. Napari checks the unit's status with a blue-haired winged subordinate, learning that everyone is fine except those on assignment. He explains he is only stopping by before returning to protect the king, who is currently alone. A soft, airy whoosh sounds as Napari pauses to gather his thoughts amidst the cold wind. The subordinate questions when the captain will return to his regular reconnaissance duties for the unit. Napari orders surveillance on Duke Witten, sensing the noble feels no goodwill toward the king. The subordinate notes Napari's uncharacteristic seriousness, having previously seen him approach tasks with a more relaxed attitude. Napari admits he is being extra attentive because the king lived in the north and knew his mother. The blue-haired winged man reacts with exaggerated shock to the revelation of the king's long northern residence. He activates a sixth sense as he ponders the uncanny coincidence of the king sharing Napari's hometown. He asks the captain if this meeting with the human king was destined by fate. A quick swish sounds as Napari tells his subordinate to focus on his own fate and walks away. The winged captain stands alone, his expression unreadable as he reflects on his heavy duties. Panic erupts as a soldier rushes in, screaming that war has officially broken out on the Pell Plains. A voice echoes in the silence, acknowledging that the anticipated conflict has finally begun. Arsinoe sits surrounded by flowers, having sensed that the political and military tensions were about to explode. A sudden, sharp click sounds as the black-haired Gödel enters to find her calmly cutting paper. Gödel is visibly shaken and breathless, struggling to report the outbreak of war to the unbothered princess. He admires her composure while she playfully teases him for spacing out during such a critical moment. Arsinoe discusses the massive resource drain of gathering soldiers, confirming that Dopain struck first as expected. She confidently predicts that Dopain will win, prompting the shocked Gödel to ask for her reasoning. Gödel points out Dopain's lack of soldiers, weaponry, and geographical advantage in the conflict. He questions her certainty until he recalls the Empire's secret deployment of lichen slaves to aid Dopain. He realizes the enemy is likely using the lichens to sever Antibacillus' vital supply network. Arsinoe explains that attacking the supply gorge is a basic strategy made lethal by the Pell Plains' wide-open terrain. Using lichens allows the attackers to bypass high-ground defenses that would normally turn human soldiers into arrow fodder. Arsinoe concludes that wars are won by the side that lasts longest, noting everything matches her predictions. Gödel reflects on the Empire's calculated secret aid and the timing of the pre-spring strike. Arsinoe declares the situation simple while she continues her delicate crafting work at the table. He is stunned by the depth of her knowledge, demanding to know since when she discovered these military secrets. A rhythmic snip sounds as she dismisses her brilliance as mere speculation while praising the actual plan's creator. Her eyes glow with a sharp intensity as she realizes the true mastermind behind the strategy must be him. A sudden cold whoosh sounds as she recalls the name of Prince Alex, the likely architect of the war. Arsinoe orders a close watch on the border, hoping the two nations simply exhaust one another in battle. Gödel remains speechless, unable to find words for the princess's detached and chilling calculations. Arsinoe focuses on her craft, explaining how to fold and glue the paper base into a standing structure. She proudly shows off a 3D pop-up picture, declaring her intention to give it to Walter as a gift. Arsinoe smiles warmly, finding comfort in her small creation despite the chaos of the world.
Gödel looks at her with silent, bewildered awe at her split personality of master strategist and lighthearted hobbyist.